Hello everyone, this is Padmanabh Reddy and welcome to Lit Critique. In our previous videos, we looked at Chaucer's introduction of all these wonderful characters from Knight to the Doctor of Physique. In this particular video, we'll be focusing on more of his characters, starting from the wife of Bath till the Reeve. Even in these characters, Chaucer uses his wit, humor and satire to critique the institutions that he had most problems with, namely the institution of marriage as well as the institution of patriarchy, as well as this institution of church which he disliked the most. A good wife there was of beside Bath, but she was somdal deaf, and that was scathe. Of cloth making she had switch and haunt, she passed hem of Ypres and of Gaunt. In all the parish wife ne was there known, that to the orphanage before her shall gone. And if there died, certain so ruth was she, that she was out of all charity. This character called as a wife of Bath is one of the most important characters that we'll meet in the general prologue, and this is one of those major characters that we'll meet in the general prologue who will have a distinct voice of their own. So this wife of Bath has a voice of a feminist character, and a feminist character in Chaucer's time is totally a radical thought, and Chaucer remarkably puts this character in this entourage. And by the way, wife of Bath literally means a woman who belongs to the city called as Bath, and Bath is a city in the south of England. This character called as a wife of Bath is more into this cloth making business, and she likes to sew clothes. Her quality of those clothes were more than that of Ypres and Ghent, and these two are places in England which are mostly known for their cloth making prowess. And this lady, she is so good in cloth making that her quality exceeded that of those two places, and also everybody would come to her and take her clothes, get their clothes stitched for marriages and all. If somebody wouldn't come to their to her to take clothes, she would go to that marriage and just scream out that how dare you to not take my clothes. And also this character called as a wife of Bath is a funny character as well as really a radical character, and we will see why it is a radical character in the later lines. Her coverchiefs full fine wherein of ground, I dost swear they weighed in 10 pound, that on his Sunday wherein upon her head her horsen wherein of fine scarlet red, full straight tied and shoes full moist and new. Bold was her face and fair and red of hue. Chaucer in these lines goes into the physical characteristics of this character called as a wife of Bath. Now he tells that this character has a really bold face, she has a red hue, she likes to again show off. By these all characteristics that we are shown, we are told that she wears really good stockings which are of scarlet red in color. She carries a good handkerchief which is a really costly one, because that is really fine, as well as it weighs 10 pounds, so that is not a small amount at that point of time. And also we are told again that's a weight, and we can just again put it in forms of also money. If even if we look it in forms of money, it is really costly, and that itself tells that she is a really independent woman. This in itself is a really radical thought, and Chaucer is getting into more and more trouble while introducing to us this character of the wife of Bath. She was a worthy woman all her life, husbands at church door she had 5, without an other companion in youth, but thereof needeth not to speak as note. And thrice had she been at Jerusalem, she had passed many a strange stem. At Rome she had been, and at Boulogne, in Galles at St. James, and at Cologne. She could muchel of wandering by the way. Chaucer is now getting into serious troubles over here, because in the first line itself he tells that this character called as a wife of Bath, she's a really worthy woman. But this is a brilliance of Chaucer. In the next line itself he tells that she has married 5 men, and now she is waiting for a 6th one. She is looking out for a 6th one. And a woman marrying 5 men and looking for a 6th one, this is a really radical thought. And when we look into Chaucer's time and today's time, it just looks, oh, all right, it just seems that okay, it's her choice and all, it's all a woman's choice how she wants to lead her life. But when we look at Chaucer's time, it's totally a different thing altogether, because women had negligible rights. It was a society filled with patriarchy. Women had no no rights at all. They didn't have anything to speak against. Now when Chaucer mentions that she had just married 5 men, she had been married 5 times, this is gonna upset many people at his time, because a woman who has been married 5 times, just imagine what kind of story she will tell. And obviously the story that she tells will offend many people at his time, and this is where Chaucer gets into trouble. Also, like the knight, this character, the wife of Bath, has traveled a lot, and this itself again is a radical idea, because even today many people in our world object to women traveling. Even today many consider that this world is not again really safe for women to travel. But when we think of Chaucer's world, it's a totally different world altogether. If we just think that even in today's time it's not safe for travel for women, just think about Chaucer's time. Would it have been safe for women to travel at that point of time? No, it was not at all. Now when Chaucer is telling that she has traveled a lot, this is again a radical idea that he's projecting. We are told that she has been to Jerusalem thrice. She has also gone to many places like Rome, Boulogne, and also to St. James's Cathedral in Galicia, which is again a western province of Spain. She has been to all those places, and also she knows the routes over there. And this itself tells us that Chaucer is now introducing as a really radical character as well as a very controversial character. This wife of Bath is one of the most controversial characters that Chaucer has ever created. If we look at it in today's context, it seems to us the greatest feminist voice that existed in Chaucer's time. But when we look at in Chaucer's time, it seems a blasphemy to the society at that point of time, because the thing called as women's rights and feminism didn't even exist back then. Gat-toothed was she, soothly for to say, upon an ambrel easily she sat, yimpled well, and on her head and hat, as broad as is a buckler or a targe, a foot mantle about her hips large, and on her feet a pair of spurs sharp. In fellowship well could she laugh and carp, of remedies of love she knew perchance, for she could of that art the old dance. This character called as a wife of Bath, she has extreme self-confidence. She looks out for men, and as well as she dresses up to show off. And we are told that she wears a large wimple and also an overskirt. We are told that she can ride a really good horse. And in the last 2 lines, we are almost told that she's an alchemist who knows how to mix the love potions well. She knows how to approach men. She knows how to make them fall in love. This itself shows that this character called as a wife of Bath is a really radical character. She is just out of her own timeline. She is not the typical woman that people want. She is someone who is really independent. She is very self-confident. She is looking out for a 6th person after having 5 marriages. This is not the kind of person that people want, and Chaucer would be attacked for these writings. He is literally critiquing the ideology of the patriarchy, which Aristotle just said, that Aristotle mentioned in his famous treatises that men have to run the world. Women are not equal to men and all. But this idea that women are not equal, this is challenged first by Chaucer, and then we'll have writers like Mary Wollstonecraft, Simone de Beauvoir, and also J.S. Mill critiquing this idea of patriarchy and also instituting to us one of the greatest feminist theories. But this character, the wife of Bath, and her tale, this is one of the most controversial tales of that point of time, and also is really useful for feminist critiques. A good man was there of a religion, and was a poor parson of a town, but rich he was of holy thought and work. He was also a learned man, a clerk, that Christ's gospel truly would preach. His parishioners devoutly would he teach. Benign he was, and wonder diligent, and in advertise full patient, and switch he was approved of Sithis. Full loath were him to cousin for his tethys, but rather would he even out of doubt unto his poor parishioners about of his offering and eke of his substance. So the next character that Chaucer introduces to us is a character of the Parson, and we are told that he's a really good man. He's one of those good people that we meet in the Canterbury Tales, who think more about others more than themselves. And this Parson is a religious guy. He is not those hypocrites that we see in the Monk and the Friar and in later the Sumner and Partner. Those are nasty guys. but this man is really good. He first follows the gospel himself and then he teaches to others. And many times what happens is he gets, if at all he gets some income more than he should have, he gives it to his people. And also most of the times he gives a part of his income to the people that he lives among, the church parish obviously. And also he didn't like to get excommunicated at all, so he paid all the taxes in time. So Chaucer is again making a point over here. He's telling that if you want to be a really good religious man, you need to be a good man, not a hypocrite at all. You shouldn't be saying one thing and doing one thing. You should be saying the same thing and doing the same thing as well. That is what a hallmarked religious man is. That is what a real religious man is, not the kind of people that you find in friar or monk, and later we'll see the summoner and pardoner. Those characters are the most nasty people that you meet in the general prologue. He couldn't little thing have sufficience, wood was his parish and houses for asunder, but he ne left not for rain ne thunder, in sickness nor in mischief to visit, the forest in his parish mush and light upon his feet, and in his hand a staff. This noble ensample to his sheep he off, that first he wrought and afterwards he taught. In these lines, we are told the kindness of this parson by Chaucer. We are told that even if it rains, or even if it is really hot outside, even if it is thunder outside, this man wouldn't stop visiting the people that lived in his parish. So this man, even though if he was sick, he would go to them, he would visit them, he would talk to them. Although we see in the monk and the friar that they are not even interested to go to people and talk, this parson is really into this business of religion. He's really going to people's houses, he's talking to them. He is again asking everyone that what is your problem and all, let me talk to you. So this parson is a really good man. Here we also see that although his people were sometimes really far away, that wouldn't prevent him from going to them and talk. This again here is setting up an example to his people that he is a leader, he is some kind of person who they have trust in him. And also he is first following the things himself and then he is preaching to people, not just saying that okay, you have to follow this rules ABCD but I'll not follow them. He's not that kind of a hypocrite. He is this kind of man who would first follow all those rules himself and then he would tell them that okay, I'm following them myself, so why don't you follow? This is the word of God. These are the things that we have to follow. This is really a good man. Out of the gospel he to words caught, and his figure he added thereto, that if gold rust, what shall iron do? For if a priest be fool on whom we trust, no wonder is a lewd man to rust. And shame it is if a priest take keep a shitten shepherd and clean sheep. Well ought a priest ensample for to give by his cleanless how that his sheep should live. In these lines we are told by Chaucer that if a person of a religion is a good man at a point of place, then even his people would be good. And a good person would set an example to his people that first he is a good man, and if he is a good man, then good would be his people. But if the parson himself is a fool, he is not a good man, then his people would be gone to waste. He is again saying, Chaucer literally says that if a religious person of a place is not good, then the people won't be good at all, because he won't be setting up an example for his people to follow. And this man, this particular parson is a really good man, and he himself is setting up an example for the people, for them to follow. And this is a really good example that Chaucer gives over here, because he's literally contrasting this parson with all those previous characters that we meet, and also with the nasty characters of summoner and pardoner, which we'll be meeting later. He set not his benefice to hire, and let his sheep encumbered in the mire, and ran to London unto St. Paul's to seek in him a chauntry for souls, or with a brother had to be in withhold, but dwelt at home and kept well his fold, so that the wolf ne made it not miscarry. He was a shepherd and not a mercenary, and though he holy and were virtuous, He was to sinful men not despicuous, nay of his speech dangerous, nay digne, but in his teaching discreet and benign. In these lines, we are told by Chaucer how good of a person this Parson is. We are told that he doesn't rent out his ecclesiastical living and just leave out his people to die. He doesn't go to London and run into St. Paul's and ask for patron for him to give money, or he doesn't go out to get again employment by some guild, but rather he stays at home for his people, so that a wolf doesn't come and hurt his sheep. Now the sheep here means all the people over here, and wolf literally means the evil that people succumb to. We are told that this man literally stays in his place for his people, for them to make them walk in a good line, in a good manner. And this man, although he was really holy person, he wasn't scornful to sinful people at all. He would go and talk to them also, and in his speeches he also taught really benign lines. He taught all those good things in his speeches. Never in his speeches he was haughty and all. Never in his speeches he was really proud of anything. So this man really loves his people, and this is what Chaucer means by a good religious man. To draw in folk to heaven by fairness, by good ensample, this was his business. But it were any person obstinate, whatso he were of high or of low start, him would he snibben sharply for the nonsense. A better priest I trove that nowhere known, yes, he waited after no pomp and reverence, nay made him a spiced conscience, but Christus lore and his apostles 12 he taught, but first he followed it himself. In these lines, Chaucer tells us that this man called as a parson is really again a good man. I have been repeating this line for a long time now, but still this man is really that good. He is one of the best characters that you will meet in the Canterbury Tales, who is a really positive vibe to it. This character is very interested in speaking really a fair language. He speaks really softly, diligently to people, to set up examples. And if there is a stubborn people all around, if he speaks to stubborn man, then he would rebut everything. He is a really good man, unless it is a stubborn man who comes to him and he argues everything that is just nonsense. He would rebut them left and right. But unless if it is not a stubborn man, he would speak really softly. And this man doesn't like all this pomp and show. He doesn't like all those parties. He doesn't like all those worldly things that we see in the summoner partner later. But already we have seen them in the characters of the friar and the monk. Those characters are more interested into the worldly things than the transcendental things, but this man is more interested into the transcendental things. This man first follows all the teachings of Jesus Christ and his 12 apostles first before teaching them. He's setting up an example, and Chaucer here makes this argument that a good man has to be this person who lives a quality life. But if somebody is not living a quality life, he doesn't judge him. And this character is the same. He's living a quality life. But if somebody is not living a quality life, this parson doesn't judge them. And this is what Chaucer means by being a good man or a good religious man, and not those hypocrites that you find in the characters of the monk and the friar and later in the Sumner and Partner. I'm just telling Sumner and Partner because those are the two nastiest characters that you will meet in the whole general prologue. With him there was a Plowman, was his brother, that had lad of dong full many a fother, a true sinker and a good was he, living in peace and perfect charity. God loved he best with all his whole heart, at all times though him gammed or smart, and than his neighbor right as himself, he would thresh and thereto dike and dell, for Christ's sake, for every poor wight, without an hire, if it lay in his might. His tithes paid he full fair and well, both of his proper swink and his cartel. In a tabard he ruled upon a mare. In Chaucer's day, you wouldn't have the toilets that we have in today's day. All people would just poop into a bucket and they would throw it away. And the job of this Plowman is to pick up that human excreta. And this is the lowest of the jobs you find in England at that point of time. And we are told right away that this man called as a Plowman is a brother of the parson. And this itself tells us that how Chaucer is again putting the irony and satire over here. He's telling that if you're a brother of a really good and honest man, this is where you're ending up. And this is a serious problem for Chaucer, that if people are honest, they are not succeeding enough. Although they are succeeding on a transcendental level, but in his own life he's not succeeding anywhere. And this Plowman is much like the Parson himself. He loved God all around, and also he loved God even though he was in pleasure, although he was in pain. So he loved God all alike. And we are also told that he loves his neighbor as himself, and he would also ditch all those trenches and all, not trenches exactly, all the pits and all, if for the poor people, if it was in his power. And also this man is a really good man. He's almost similar to how this Parson is. Then we are also told that this person also pays his taxes really well. He wears a sleeveless jacket on a mare, that means a female horse. He rides on a female horse, and all the taxes that he paid, he used to pay it on time, just like the Parson, his brother. And these two characters are really similar. And Chaucer again tells over here, he makes this argument that any work is respectable if it is done really well. If it is done in a respectful manner, any work is not small. It is always respectable. Chaucer, again, we see that he critiques all those characters who show this hypocrisy in them. But these two characters, the Plowman as well as his brother, the Parson, both of them, they don't show hypocrisy at all. And these two characters, Chaucer loves them a lot. There was also a Reeve and a Miller, a Sumner and a partner also, a Manciple and myself, and there were no more. Chaucer has now realized that it is taking a lot of time introducing all these characters, so now he has to rush everything. So he tells that, okay, we are all done with it. Now we are having just 3 or 4 characters. Among them is a Miller, and there is a Manciple, there is a Reeve, there is a Sumner and partner, and myself. So this is myself as Chaucer. So he tells that these are only the characters that are left, and there are no more characters more than that. He is just telling that, okay, we are just left with these all people, just bear with me. The Miller was a stout carle for the nonce, full big he was of brawn and eke of bones, that trued well for over all that he came, at wrestling he would and alway the ram, he was short-shouldered, broad a thick nar, there was no door that he could have of har, or break it at a running with his head, his beard as any sove or fox was red, and thereto brood as though it were a spade. This man called as a Miller is a really comic fellow, and also this is a typical party animal. Chaucer tells that he was a really big man, stoutly built, and he had this muscular arms, and also a character tag that he gives, also one more character tag that he gives later. But in these lines, the character tag that we find is he had this beard that is as red as a fox, and it was so wide that it resembled a spade. And also this man in wrestling, he would win any prize in wrestling. And also when he would walk all through the doors, he would break some of them, or he would crash with some of the doors. He wouldn't fit in almost all the doors that he goes through. So this man is a really comic fellow. And in the later lines we'll find that this man is a typical party animal that Chaucer tells us. Upon the cop right of his nose he had a wart, and thereon stood a tuft of hairs, red as the bristles of sows earth. His nostrils black were and wide, a sword and a buckler bar he was by his side. His mouth as great was as a great furnace, he was a jangler and a goliardress, and that was most of sin and harlotries. Well could he steal in corn and tollen thrice, and yet he had a thumb of gold pardry, a white coat and blue hood weared he, a bagpipe well could he blow and sew, and therewithal he brought us out of town. Right away in these lines, Chaucer tells us that above his nose there is a tuft of hair which look like bristles, and also everybody has a tendency to look at them. So this is again a character tag that Chaucer gives to us. And also we are told that he had this big mouth and foul smell, and he's this blabbering fellow. He had this loud mouth, and also he was a kind of a fool character. He was a buffoon. And again we are also told that he knows how to steal steal corn and also take payment 3 times. His mouth was full of sins. That means he's not a good man at all. He's a literally party animal. He would go to the bar and just say, okay, get me a drink and all. He drinks, he dances, and also this man is a total Casanova. He's not that Casanova that Afra Ben mentions in her book, but not those Casanova, but he's more of a party animal. He wore this white coat and a blue hood, and also he carried this bagpipe. And while all this entourage is going to Canterbury, this man would entertain them by playing this bagpipe. A gentle manciple there was of a temple, of which a Chaucer's might take example, for to be wise and benign of vitile, for whether that he paid or took by tile, algate he waited so in his achart, that he was a before and in good start. Right away we are told that this character called as a manciple is a really intelligent man, that people would learn from him how to look at transactions, whether he would take goods based on cash, or he would take all the goods right out of credit, or anything else. He would look into all those opportunities where he can get the profit, and he was so good at that he was really good at every single state, and people would learn from him all these skills. Now is all a shire in any case that might fall or hap, and yet this manciple set here all a cap. Now in these lines we are told that this man is not at all educated, but his knowledge itself foreshadows all those learned men. He had many masters earlier, but now a dozen of them, they might have been the lords of many lands in England, whose rents were so rich, and he would have been that good with them, that they would have placed him in really good places where he would have lived a rich life, or would have lived a really economical life with all the securities that could have got in that point of time. But this man really fooled them all. He didn't care about them. He just wanted himself to succeed. And also here Chaucer tells that you need to be street smart than bookworm. And the education at that point of time isn't the same idea that we have right now. The present idea of education comes loosely from the romantic tradition, and we'll talk about romantic tradition in a different video. But in this video now, let us focus into this character, the manciple. This character is totally caring about only himself. He doesn't care about anyone else. He just fooled everyone. He's that intelligent. Now just think about that. A person who doesn't have any formal education, he's outwitting all those people who have really formal education. Now what is Chaucer telling? He's critiquing the education as a whole. He's telling that be those street smart people who can earn money, not those bookworm people who just go on reading books and all, but at the end you don't have anything left. Just you know all the theories in the books or all the matter in the books, but you don't know how to earn money. This is not how it works. Chaucer just tells it that although you have really good education, although if you don't even have education, you need to be street smart for sure. You need to have the idea and that knowledge to gain money, not just by studying, but also by experience. This is what Chaucer argues over here. The Reeve was a slender, choleric man. His beard was shaved as nigh as ever he can. His hair was by ears, full round is shorn. His top was docked like a priest before. Full longe were his legs and full lean. Yelk a staff, there was no calf you seen. Well could he keep a garner and a bin. There was no auditor could on him win. The Reeve is what we call today a manager. A manager is someone who you go to that person and he will hire you, although it's a HR at many points. But a manager is someone who would look after your employment and all. Now this Reeve is the same person. He is that slim, slender person who is just like a stick, and we are told that he is cleanly shaven, and also his hair is really cropped, neatly cropped, like someone like a priest. So he has this good outfit. He has this outfit of what we call as a gentleman, quote unquote gentleman, that clean cut hair and really a good, really a good shave and all these ideas about being a gentleman, having a good haircut and having a good hair and being in court and all these these ideas go back to the Chaucerian times. And we are also told that nobody could catch him. Nobody could catch him if the audit happens. That means this man is doing some dark stuff, but nobody would catch him because he is that intelligent again. Well wist he by the drought and by the rain, the yielding of his seed and of his grain, his lord sheep, his neat, his dairy, his swin, his horse, his stoor, and his poultry, was wholly in his Reeve's garnage, and by his covenant of the reckonage, sin that his lord was 20 year of age, there could no man bring him in a rage. So we are told that this Reeve had this control of all the cattle, all the poultry, all the dairy, and all the land that his master had. That was all in his control. And also we are told that his master was of just 20 years old, and that's why nobody could catch him. Like there was no other farm, though no other farm keeper and all, no other person. That we'll just look in the next lines. There was no other person and nobody could catch him. This literally means that he's doing some dark stuff, but nobody can catch him because he's that intelligent. He's that intelligent person that who can just sniff out anything, and all these things that give him extreme amount of power. There nas bailiff ne heard nor other hine, that he ne knew his slate and his covine. They were adrad of him as of the death. His wonging was full fair upon an heath. With green trees shadowed was his place. He could better than his lord purchase. Full rich he was astored privily. His lord well could he pleasant subtly to yive and lend him of his own good, and have a thank and yet a coat and a hood. All those people working in this farm, let it be a herdsman, let it be some in charge of a place, all of these people were literally afraid of this Reeve. And this Reeve knew exactly what went through these minds. He knew all the treacheries and all the dark plans that went through these people. So he was one step ahead of all these people. And also we are told that this man knows how to subtly impress his master, and he gives his master's own land for rent, and also he gets back a thanks in return. This is the intelligence of this Reeve. And also we are told that this man is really a street smart person. Just like the earlier character that we just met, this man is literally a street smart person. He knows how to do the things really well. He knows how to do it. He knows how to execute it perfectly. He knows how to keep others in check too. And this is a person who can again look after everything really well, and also do some dark deeds and also put back things back. Because again we are told that this man was given really good housing. He was given a rich housing, but his master was just 20 years old. He was just little child. 20 years old is not that big person that you can go on and just do treachery and just escape from him. This man is really a good simple master, just 20 years old. He is a literal child, so it is very easy for him to fool him and give his own land and get back some money in return just for rent. Just imagine this kind of thing, giving your own master your master's own books or your master's own property and getting back the rent in return. This itself is just mind-blowing imagination of Chaucer's, and also the kind of irony and wit and satire and humor that he uses with this character called as a Reeve. In youth he had learned a good mister, he was a well good right a carpenter. This Reeve sat upon a full good stot, that was all pomely grey and highty Scot. A long surcoat of purse upon he had, and by his side he bare a rusty blade. Of Northfolk was his rave, of which I tell. Beside a town men clepen Baldwell, tugged he was as is a frere about, and ever he rode the hindester of a rout. This man called as a Reeve, he sits upon a really good horse and he is named Scott. So only few characters are named in this whole Canterbury Tales, and this Reeve is one of them. He's called as Scott, and we are told that this man is from the north. He's from the north side of England and from a town called as Baldwin. We are also told that this character called as a Reeve, he tucked his coat up like a friar, and he usually is at the end of the entourage. He travels at the very last. All these characters that Chaucer mentions, even in these characters he uses all the wit, his humor, his satire, everything that Chaucer uses is really important for us to understand the society at that point of time. And with the characters like Wife of Bath, we get to see the proto-feminist thought, and also we don't have this proto-feminism at that point of time. Generally in literary theory, we mention proto-feminist as Mary Wollstonecraft, and the later writers as the true feminist. And also this word called as a true feminist is always debated, but the Wife of Bath is really important for us to understand the society at that point of time, and also all these other characters. And in the next video we'll be meeting our last two characters called as the summoner and partner, and in the later video then we'll meet at last Chaucer himself, which is the end of the prologue. But these two characters, the summoner and partner, these are the two nastiest characters that you will meet in the whole general prologue. If you like this video, please don't hesitate to leave a like, and also if you have any doubts, please don't hesitate to put all your doubts in the comment box down below. I'll be reading all your comments, I'll be clearing all of them as well. And also please don't forget to subscribe to Lit Critique. This is Padmanabh Reddy from Lit Critique signing off. Bye bye.